Hello and welcome to the Reinventors podcast from Live to Reinvent. Live to Reinvent provides a comprehensive online longevity, health, fitness and wellbeing training program. And in the Reinventors, we talk to people in midlife and beyond who've made those big changes. We hear about what their trigger point was. What was the thing that made them decide they had to make a change? And then we hear about the steps they took along the way. And finally, they tell us all about where they are now. I can guarantee that after hearing these stories, you'll go away with some practical steps to take for your own reinvention and start to make a change today. So welcome to the Reinventor podcast, and I am delighted today to be with Louise Featherstone.
Oh, Louise Featherstone. Only my mum called me Louise Featherstone.
You are Louisa, aren't you?
I am Louisa.
Better known as Lou in LuLu Land. And she now has around, I don't know how many followers on Instagram, but a lot of, what is it, 1 million or?
No, oh my God. And can you imagine now, 108,000 now, I think?
Yeah, nearly 1 million. So 108,
very close to 1 million, or just round it up.
And you are the self-proclaimed captain of the self-love revolution. Is that say it?
Yeah.
Describe yourself further, Lou. I'll let you describe you again, because you did say another bit, which I've forgotten. So
yes, no, that's fine. I'm about 10 different things. I always find it quite hard to describe myself. A women's empowerment activist.
Women's empowerment activist, brilliant. And we're into them.
Yeah, well, interestingly, I've spent most of this year trying to move away from calling myself an influencer and find my feet elsewhere, rather, because influencer has such an odd effect on people. They're just a word, and I don't feel like it really represents what I do. So I've always used content creator, but I do influence people. I influence people in a way of thinking and a way to live. That's what I hope.
Yes.
But I think when you say influencer, people go, you know, and I'm not out there trying to sell you shit you don't need. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
Oh, of course you're allowed to swear.
Okay, God, just thought I'd check.
You're with me. I'm of Irish descent and I swear quite by myself.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good.
Well, yeah, I did see that somewhere got picked up where you said accidental influencer on a YouTube thing. And I thought, I wonder if Lou wants to be called that, because I wouldn't see you as the influencer in whatever definition that is. I would see you as a leader of a movement.
Yes, that's really what I am. Thank you for that, because that's what I've been trying to. I think that's what this year I've been trying to sort of embed, that I'm not just an influencer, and I'm not disparaging women who make their living online at all. It's a great way of making a living if that's what, you know, if that's your jam. But yeah. And it is a bit of an accident, honestly. I feel like if we're going right in with reinvention, I've probably reinvented myself more times than you can shake a stick at. And of all of the things, an influence, I didn't set out to be to be online. But I think being online has given me an outlet to be creative, be myself. I love my community so much. I find that I find it really empowering having my community there. And it's a great way of being able to get me across.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's so much I want to talk about the community, and about how I think women, 50-something women, are finding their place in this kind of leading movements through online world. It's a good vehicle, because often we're shafted out of the kind of working world, and I kind of think, well, fuck you, because I don't want to be with the people who don't want
us. Yeah, exactly.
So I'd love to. We'll inevitably we've both got that energy. We want to talk about all of this, but let's go back to the vicar's daughter. The first reinvention. Just tell me a little bit about Louisa and about you as a younger woman, and who you were and what you were about.
Well, Louisa tried very, very hard to be a very good vicar's daughter, but as you can imagine, it usually answers most people's questions. When I say I'm a vicar's daughter, people usually just spit their tea out and they're like, oh, okay, that all makes sense now. We have a terrible reputation. And I think it is because it's a bit like celebrities' children are always caught shoplifting or getting up to no good. I think it's because we sort of grow up in the public eye, if you like. Yeah. And people might not think that about being a vicar's daughter, but we're very much on parade. We're very much expected to be, to be well behaved. I don't think so much anymore, but certainly back in the day, it was a sort of railway children sort of upbringing. It's always on parade for everybody else, which I kind of loved. And now I think it gave me the best bits of me and the worst bits of me growing up in a vicarage. It certainly gave me some skills to talk to just about anybody because the front door was always open. We welcomed everyone into our home. My dad had several large parishes through my childhood. My mum was a probation officer, specialising in working with, category A prisoners. So we're talking murderers and paedophiles. Yeah. And, growing up in Christianity is a huge part of my life. And, my mum had such a huge capacity for forgiveness and compassion. And I kind of just loved that community, that feeling of community. Everyone was welcome in our house, no matter who they were. I was making beans on toast for the homeless around 8 when they came knocking on the door, but somebody might knock on the door. They might want a funeral or a wedding, or it might be a bishop. It might be the bishop. So I had to be quite nimble with
who was interesting kind of way to grow up.
Yeah. And I think, I did a TED talk a couple of years ago and realized that, somebody called me the minister of masturbation the other day, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And I have absolutely turned into my father. I have a community, I preach my message. And my door of I'm very open. I make myself very vulnerable, sharing my shit all over the internet. But I find a power and a comfort in that. And and now I have my bus, and my door of my bus is always open. And now, so there's definitely a stream of consistency through all the reinventions.
It's so interesting that, because it's I often think that kind of what we call woo-woo and stuff is just religion reinvented.
Yeah, it is.
It's just there's not a kind of nicer version, really. We don't have to worry about all the blooming doing bad. And I was brought up a Catholic, so you try and ditch the guilt and just get the good bits.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, I didn't grow up quite so we were Church of England, so it was it's slightly less confessions, which was
So then you married, and tell
me. Oh no, you're looking ahead now.
I was too far, didn't I?
I did. I'm going to do this really quickly. I did my A-levels, wanted to be a social worker. Couldn't, in those days, you couldn't do your social work degree until you were 21, which is genius, because, we now have 21-year-old graduated social workers removing children from families' homes and making decisions like I was not ready to make those decisions at 21. So the careers counsellor said, go off and get some experience in the area you want to work in, which was young offenders, really. So I went to work for Barnardo's for a year in Cardiff. I then went to Berlin for a year and ran a youth club for British Forces kids that were based out in Berlin. Yeah. Then I became a kiddie rep and went out to work for Falcon Holidays and ran kids clubs in Portugal and Tenerife. Then I became a Club 18 to 30 rep. Yes, that was probably one of my most memorable jobs. I will say I was very good. I was in charge of getting people drunk and laid and then bail them out of jail the next morning. I was excellent at that job. And then after that, I met an electrician from Kent and came home with him. And then I was a housekeeper for a while. Then I got a job at a health club and became an aerobics instructor. Then one of the clients offered me a job at a design company. So I started on reception, and then one of their clients poached me and I got into the advertising world. And that's where I met my husband.
Wow, what a brilliant! With Live to Reinvent, we're talking about living reinvention.
Yeah,
not just thinking to change. It's about living with that growth mindset and open and opportunity.
Yeah, and we moved a lot as kids. Wherever God called, off we hoofed. So I lived in 4 places before I was even sort of 16. And I think, now my sister and I were only talking about it the other day, and we're like, that's fucking wild. I would not move my child quite so much, but it was just how it was. And I get it, but it was quite disruptive as kids. So I became quite nimble at moving. It was also quite good because I had quite a penchant for the boys. So by the time I got a bad reputation with the boys and the girls, I was a good reputation with the boys and a shit one with the girls. It was time to move again so that I could reinvent myself.
I love it. That's like a sort of Western, get out of town.
Yeah, get out of town. Turns out letting all the boys finger you doesn't go down well with the other girls.
Got to kind of keep that, and I don't imagine you kept it to yourself in those days either. It would have...
Oh, I mean, I'm glad there was no social media back. Like most people our age were like, Jesus God. But also, you know what? Now I tell everybody, and it turns out when you start telling people these things, they're like, oh yeah, me too. And you're like, oh, okay, it wasn't just me who liked a cheeky finger in the church choir, but that's where shame comes from, right? So you just wallow around in the shame, thinking you're the only one.
Yeah.
I became quite nimble, and then married my husband, moved to Brighton, and then he got off after 10 years in Brighton because I really just wanted my son to know where he came from and where he belonged.
Yeah.
And then when he got to 10, my husband got offered a fantastic job in America, and so we packed up and off we went to America to live in Portland, Oregon.
Yes, so that's where kind of it sounds like your story
really began.
Yeah. So tell me, I mean, well, I'm from Brighton. I don't know if you know that, but yes, I am. I think I've seen you in Brighton on the grid.
On the grid, yeah. My son, I loved. I mean, it was amazing. I think I came into my own in Brighton when Oscar started school because I really did not enjoy pregnancy or childbirth. I find that one of the most awful reinventions.
Yeah, it's a tough thing.
It was so lonely. I absolutely hated it. It was one of those things where I was like, am I the only one that doesn't like their child? And that was before the internet. So there wasn't any mum bloggers out there going, well, this is hard. I just thought it was me, especially in Brighton, everyone's breastfeeding around Waitrose. I'm like,
Yeah. I'm probably similar age. And I remember that the NCT girls and it was all kind of very, it was.
Oh, I have to tell you the funniest story about the NCT. So, the NCT, my husband had his job in advertising was quite big, so he was away a lot, and so he didn't make any of the NCT classes. I think he might have made one. Yeah. And so I think they all thought I'd made up this husband, and they all sort of felt quite sorry for me. And I was a bit over them all because they were being really patronising, and I was like, I'm quite hardy. It was fine. Yeah. And then it got to sort of the very last class, and everybody had to go around and sort of say, what's your hopes and dreams for your child? And, blah, blah, blah. By the time it got to me, I was like, oh, I'm so bored of you lot. I went, well, if I have a boy, I just hope all his mates fancy me. And the silence, the crickets were like audible, and the tumbleweed blew down the middle of the room, and I never got invited to any of the babies.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, I'd love to have said something like that back then. So, I mean, amazing. So you got to Portland then. So I can hear what you said about your story so far, that all the bits were in place for where you are now, the moving, preaching, and preaching in a nice way, the purpose really to, that you want to make a difference to people. So from making sometimes homeless people to where you are now with women. So
I think I always knew life was about something more than me, and I think that was definitely mum and dad. For ages I thought it was church, and then I thought it was social work for a long time. And I think social work for sure. I ended up in Brighton going into social work. In the end, I was a community family worker. So I was working with families where the kids were about to be removed and put into care. And I went in the family home and worked with them to try and keep them at home, teaching parenting skills. And I absolutely loved that job so much. It was such a privilege to work with these families and like be in a family home and try and keep a family together. I mean, what else? I'd come home after a day of doing that. My husband's coming home having made an ad for some vile, gigantic brand. And it was like, this mad yin and yang. But it was, we were both doing what we needed to do. And then I became chair of the PTA and set up some community festivals. And I started a camping festival, and it was super time. So when he got offered the job in Portland, it felt sort of almost, I don't know, it felt a little self-indulgent because we had a really good life. I'm like, is this mad that we're throwing up our life to go? Yeah. But it seemed too good not to go. We're a very outdoorsy couple and, family, big snowboarders and campers and adventurers. So if you don't know Oregon, it's absolutely outdoor heaven. Yeah. I mean, we could see volcanoes from the kitchen sink. Like, it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So we decided to risk it all and throw it all up in the air and go. And I think almost immediately on arriving, we set off on different paths. It didn't feel like that at the time.
Yeah.
But on reflection now, as I sort of look back at the journey, and I spend a lot of time talking about this part of my, I've done a TED talk about this, and, and I get to reflect on this a lot. And I think, when we first arrived, he had to go to work, which seemed as a great surprise. They'd flown us out there, and I thought it felt like we were going on holiday. And then all of a sudden he had to start work, and Oscar started at school. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And you know what? Someone had bought us a hamper of things to say welcome to Portland, and in there was a hiking book, and it was the 20 best hikes within an hour and a half of Portland. And it's gonna make me cry. And I was like, okay, fine. I was bored the first week. Everyone had started their new job, so I was like, I went for the first hike on my own, and I put it on Facebook. And one of the mums at the school gate the next day said, oh, I saw you went on a hike. If you want some company next time, can I come? And I was like, yeah, sure. Why don't we go next week? Yeah. So we ditched the kids at school and we went and grabbed a coffee, and then we went on a hike, and then we put that on Facebook. And then the next day, someone at school says, can I come next time? And within a month of arriving, I'd kind of accidentally set up this hiking squad of women.
I didn't realise you did that. That's really interesting. So, and that's your passion in terms of fitness, getting outside and hiking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so how long were there? How long did you go for? What was it like doing the hiking?
Well, this changed my life forever. These women changed my life. So each week it would be different women. It was nothing formal. It was just like, right, we'll ditch the kids. The kids started school at 8, which was brilliant. So we dropped the kids at school at 8. We could be in the coffee. We met in the coffee shop at 10:08, and we were out of the coffee shop at 20 past. Nice. And then we circled back because someone needed a wee. So it was hard out of the coffee shop at 8:30. And the only rule was, you had to bring something to share for lunch and a can of hiking wine, because in America they put champagne in cans, which is so civilized. I don't know why we don't do that here. I might bring out hiking wine. We called it hiking wine. And you had to bring a can of hiking wine. And we would drive for maybe an hour and a half, and you could be on a freaking volcano. And we hiked up there week by week. We hiked all over the place, just... Sometimes there'd be 5 of us. Sometimes there'd be 20 of us. Yeah. Sometimes you knew everybody. Sometimes you was complete strangers and someone had bought somebody. But every woman, no matter, even if it was a woman you were like, I wouldn't necessarily want to go away for a weekend with you, or we're never going to be best mates. Every woman brought something to the group. They brought a story or a tale or a different way of thinking, or, they're having trouble with their husband or their kids. And, everybody had different advice and ways of doing things. And it was absolutely fascinating. And this free therapy of just getting this marching up mountains, fucking husbands, fucking kids, life, blah, blah, blah. Share space, share stories, share experiences, share space and food at the top, break bread together at the top of a mountain, drink our hiking wine, share space back again. We were back to pick the kids up at 3 o'clock. It was like we were nailing life.
I have to just say, this is exactly what I tried to sort of say to people about fitness. And, it's not about going, I have to go and do, I taught aerobics as well, go and do a class and and it's all structured and another thing you have to do. But this is exactly what it should be about, for longevity as well. For, getting groups of people together. The exercise is almost like an additional thing. It's incidental. You're not getting together just to exercise.
No, it's
together to eat together, be taught together, drive each other on.
It's the same as church, right? It's being gathered together with common purpose. And that can be your church, your religion, it can be your aerobics group, it can be a hike group, it can be your Zumba class, it can be your bike, it's whatever. It's that, that feeling of when you've been away on a girls' weekend, that magic of that experience together. And like, we were fortunate. I couldn't work because I didn't have a visa for work. Yeah. And, when we were on our way out to America, I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with myself all day? I was so stressed because I'd worked since I first got in debt. at 16, I've been working. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm certainly not very good at being dependent on my husband financially.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I settled into doing fuck all very well, very fast.
Yeah, I'd like to do that someday.
But this group of women changed my life. And there was a sort of hardcore 8 of us that were, and we still to this day, I credit these women with changing my life.
Yeah.
And there's something about that, pushing each other up mountains metaphorically and, you know, just through midlife and the challenges with the kids. You know, we were all of an age where all our teenagers were just starting to get into trouble and smoke weed and finger girls and get into mischief. And, you know, there was a couple of us who were living in America who were British, and parents were getting sick back at home. And, you know, just the day-to-day grind, but that space for each other each week. And we've gone on to have adventures all over the world. You know, we've hiked literally from Scotland, Grand Canyon, you name it. We continue to meet through hiking.
And that's the process of living to reinvent. That's kind of like living daily to kind of rethink, you know, to be another version of yourself. I think the reinvention story is quite clear in that you got on that bus and you went, which we will come to, but you know, how that your marriage came to an end and then you got on the bus and you went 6,000 miles or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately then the hiking, I found CrossFit as well, and that's an amazing community of people. And I found fitness, and as my confidence grew, as my fitness grew, my confidence grew with my fitness, and not just about yes, my body was stronger, and you know, I finally after a lifetime of a really unhealthy relationship with food, I found a strength in my body and my body started to sort of fit me, and it's the sort of, as I got fitter and more sort of ripped, if you like. But that confidence gave me an inner strength and a mental strength as well. You know, every day I'd arrive at the gym and I'd look at the workout and be like, I can't do that. And then within an hour I have done it, cheered on by my classmates. And so I leave, I'm winning, and it's not even 8 a.m. because I'm I'm an early doors girl.
Yeah.
And all of these things, you know, people always look at me and, have you always been this confident? Have you always dressed like this? And I'm like, it's such a series of slow steps, and it's bit by bit. And there's still days where I'm like, you know, not as confident as I always may appear to people. But it's
fitting in your body. I like that. That's kind of.
Yeah, because but interestingly, as my confidence grew and my body changed, my husband started to really pull away from me, and he was like, I don't like your new muscly body. And now I realise it wasn't my body. It was making him fearful. It was my confidence that was growing. And that was what was fearful. And his easy thing was to blame it on my new muscles.
And it's so common, you know. I mean, years ago, I worked at Slimming magazine, you know, hundreds of years ago.
Good Lord.
It was, and then you'd always hear the people's stories when they'd lost the weight. There'd be some big other shifts that would happen, like the relationships often would change because the person they were with wasn't the person they had been before. You know, they changed the process of whether it was weight loss or getting strong. Maybe like people who are on GLP-1s now might find some experience. They might think, oh, you know, who's this person now? And around you, once you change, things change around you as well.
And the thing is, I think for men, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, if you like, I think, you know, women are so used to change. It's what we do. Every day we're fucking different. We are not the same. From the day we start our periods, we are different hormonally every single day. We pivot and spin. It's our speciality. Every month, our boobs grow and shrink. Our stomach grows and shrinks. We have no control over our hips. We are built to accommodate somebody, actually, to accommodate another human being inside of us. This is what we do. And while all of those things bring all of that constant exhaustion with our hormonal changes, I think when we get to midlife and menopause, that's why this is our superpower now, because we are so used to change. So when we finish our periods and we come out the other side of menopause, this is the ultimate change that's about us for the first time in most of our lives that we can remember. This bit now is about us, which is what I started to really find that empowering and freeing. And I was not expecting that in middle age and menopause. I was expecting, you know, period to finish, yes, of course, but then, you know, I'm going to go off sex, I'm going to dry up, I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be invisible. And this is, I think, I was walking into my power as my husband was sort of losing his confidence and strength. He did not enjoy American corporate culture so much. And, you know, the job was really hard. And, you know, so we were just doing this.
Oh, yeah.
We were just completely going off in opposite directions. And then one day at the top of a volcano, I took a naked picture of myself. I got the girls to take a picture of me naked. And I posted it on Instagram, and I got a dick pic. I got a dick pic from a 26-year-old at the gym, and I'd never had a dick pic before. I'm too old for dick pics. When I met my husband, there wasn't even like phones on our cameras on the phones.
Yeah.
And this dick pic made it me. It was a shit dick pic, and it was very disappointing, to be fair, but it did make me feel horny, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Why is it weird that I feel horny? That's worrying. And then this dick pic began this kind of unraveling of everything I knew to be true in lots of ways. I was like, hang on a minute, this isn't okay. And I began to realize that, you know, back in my Club 18 to 30 days and my advertising days, I'd been a right old slut, and I'd loved that. And, you know, I got married, and we just, in these separate paths that we'd gone off on, without each other, we just completely neglected each other's most basic needs. And it wasn't like I was lying in bed going, God, he doesn't shag me. I was going to bed in a tracksuit, for God's sake. I was hardly giving him come hither messages. But we just neglected each other. And I was like, well, I've lost that massive part of me. What else have I lost of me along the way? Like, what the fuck? So I started to really look at I realized how much of me that I had lost in trying to be the vicar's daughter, then the mum, then the good wife, you know, all these things. And I was like, hang on, who the fuck am I?
Yeah.
And at that point, we were just sort of like going into lockdown. And I had, since we'd arrived in America, I'd started the hiking group by accident. I'd started doing pop-up British tea parties because American women love that shit. I was doing vintage shopping tours of Portland and taking women around. Well, and then actually I was at Airbnb experience. So I was I picked people up in the truck and drive them around and show them how to shop vintage and how to navigate the rails and be a bit more daring. And it was that took off like crazy. People loved the shopping tours, and it blew my mind how hard it was for people to be silly in the vintage shop and try something mad on, or just be a bit braver. Everyone's so stuck in their ways, and they're full of what they, you know, oh, my tits are too big for that. I can't wear yellow. My legs are too short. My bum's too big. I'm like, what's wrong with everybody? So stuck in their ways. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And so I started renting out my wardrobe. As I did all the shopping tours, I was buying so much stuff. And so I created a walk-in wardrobe at home. And I started renting out my clothes. And women would come more for the experience of just coming to try some crazy stuff on. Yeah. And they would rent it rather than spending £200 on a sequin pair of trousers. They'd come rent it from me. And I would get... That was just beginning to take off, and it was really gathering momentum. Yeah. And we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, now what? And it was around the time of the dick pic as well. So I ended up actually sort of saying to my husband, look, this isn't right. And I moved into the spare room and we went into therapy. Yeah. And, you know, we just really discovered that we just lost each other so tragically. We couldn't find our way back to each other at all. So we ended up separating. So COVID was a real challenging time. But in that time, I probably had about 8,000 followers on Instagram, I guess, when we went into lockdown.
Yeah. It
was mostly pictures of my salads and my hikes and whatnot. And then when we went into lockdown, I don't think I had anything left to... I just had, all I had was me. You know, I'm in lockdown. I'm separated from my husband. My mum's Alzheimer's was getting loads worse. And I started to really share my real journey online, going, well, this is crap and this is amazing. And the more I shared of me, like real honest like me, the more women came flocking to the door. My Instagram started growing like crazy. And my direct messages would just full of women going, oh my God, we feel invisible. We feel, we feel lost. We feel disconnected. All the things I was feeling. You see me. And I was like, wow, after all of this, just showing up as myself, as a woman who's been told she's too loud and too opinionated and too sexual and all these things, I'm too everything. Yeah. Showing up as myself is my superpower. Who knew?
Amazing. And, you didn't necessarily come out with a business plan of I will get to X amount of followers or anything like that. It just happened.
So when I do describe myself as an accidental influencer, because I'm like, what the hell? But really, it was just being myself. It turned out to be a superpower. So then while we were locked in the bedroom, I'd started to write this whole confidence course. So I was like, right, I'm going to write an online course, help people find their confidence and identify what's stopping them doing things and why are they getting in their own way. And then as we came out of lockdown, I was like, nobody wants to do an online course ever again. Like, we're all of it. So now what do I do? So now I'm separated from my husband. I've been in the spare room a year and a half. We couldn't afford another house and it was getting really stressful. My son's sort of like looming, graduation from high school was looming, and I was like, what shall I do? And I was out for a hike, obviously, and then by the side of the road I saw this old Greyhound bus that someone had bought and done up as a camper, like an RV. They'd done up as a I swerved off the road and me and my mate ran round it going, oh my fucking God. I was like, this is what I need. I could live in it. I could move out of the house and I could live in the bus. And oh my God, it could be brilliant. Think of all the things we could do. Like, I could put you could go, she was a DJ. I was like, you could DJ on top of the bus and we could do parties. Anyway, drove home and I was like, oh, I couldn't get the bus out of my head. I was like, oh my God, it could be amazing. I could go out and meet all these women that send me these direct messages. Because the more I share, the more women share back with me. So
it's incredible. I mean, I love the fact that you did that. I want to come back to the bus story. But when you started sharing and being really open, were you in menopause or in perimenopause?
Yes, but I didn't. I think now when I look back, and I always laugh because I did a TED talk about the dick pic. It was in the TED talk, and even when I did the TED talk, there's a picture of me, there's a picture that I took at the top of the volcano. It's a constant thing to me, because when I look at that picture, I felt exactly like I look in the picture. I look strong and bold and banging, and I'm like, but now when I look back, sort of on that picture, which is now 6 years ago, I guess, I realise now that was perimenopause. That was me screaming at the world and my husband to fucking look at me. And I didn't see it at that time. 6 years ago, people were not talking about menopause online. There was Davina and there was me, and that was it. And, a lot of people being miserable, and I was going, but I'm loving it. I don't understand why everybody's moaning about it. Now I'm like, okay, yes, it's not easy. Obviously now it's not an easy ride, and it wasn't all easy. I didn't love all of it, but I found it really empowering. And I found
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I found it really empowering. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Yeah, there's all these shit bits, but a lot of it is mindset. Mindset is key, but that's also the hardest thing to overcome, right?
It is. But you found your voice, and you found out who all of you came through and it started to work for you. And I think that the thing you said about women changing all the time is very true, and that women, maybe when you get to menopause, you're like, well, that's the final fucking change. This is me now. I don't have to have babies, more periods, boobs changing every month. This is it.
Result. Yeah.
So back to your Greyhound bus, and that moment you saw it and you said DJ on it, and you thought, right, so you made this happen, didn't you?
So I went home that night and I couldn't get the bus out of my head, and I had a spliff and I had gin and tonic, and there was a huge storm. We lived in a forest, and there was a huge storm, and a 200-year tree got hit by lightning and it fell down, and I'll never forget the sound of that tree. Wow. It was the most almighty crack, and it missed the house. If it had hit the house, I would literally be dead.
Jesus.
But instead, it very neatly fell between my house and the neighbour, and it clipped the edge of the house, and the whole house shook. It was a wooden house, and the whole house shook. And I was like, it's a sign I've got to buy the bus.
Yeah.
So
Well, it sounds very much. I mean, that's about as best sign.
I don't know. You can't, apart from the tree landing literally on me, I don't think I could have had a bigger sign. And so for the next week, I was like a dog after a bone. I thought of all the things I could do with the bus. And then I'm just running around telling anyone who would listen about my idea for the bus.
Yeah.
And it was about 3 days later, I said to a friend, I was telling a friend about it. And she went, oh God, I know someone who's like doing buses up down in Arizona. Do you want their number? And I went, yeah, sure. He gave me the number and I texted the fella and I went, oh, I hear you're doing up buses and like he's doing up the insides of the bus. And he went, yeah. And I went, send me some pictures. So he sent me some pictures and it's the bus I ended up buying. And people don't believe that I found it like that.
Yeah.
The inside is like, it's got a disco flooring. It's got a green tiger print sofa. It's got, Hawaiian naked ladies. It was so my bus. I was like, that's my bus. And he was like, but I went, I've got no money. And he went, well, that's a slight problem. He went, you can have it. I'll give you a month to find the money. So I went, oh my God, thank you so much. And I mean, this is so America right now. So can you imagine me going around in America, going around England going, well, I want to buy an old bus and I want to go out and meet people from Instagram. I want to go out and meet these women that message me. I want to meet people in real life. People in Britain are like, have you seen the cost of fuel? Like, what about the traffic?
Yeah.
People in America are like, fuck yeah, let's go. How can I help? Here's some money. Like, so I ended up going, right, I'm going to crowdfund the bus. And I sold.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I sold seats on the bus for $1,000 a seat. And people bought them for their family and friends, and people were like literally just handing me checks. Like, that's America, because that entrepreneurial spirit is the American dream, right? So they want you to succeed, whereas Britain, it feels like people don't want you to succeed.
To push your way up and achieve things that way.
Yeah, and if you're show-offy or you are successful and you blow your own trumpet, people are judgy here. Whereas that in America is like, we frown on that here because it seems really obnoxious. But when you're in it, it's actually so empowering, and you feel so supported and people want you to succeed. That feeling I will love America forever and ever for helping me learn that.
Yeah.
And if I'd been in England, I don't think this would have ever happened, of course. Well, I certainly wouldn't have ended up crowdfunding a 32-foot vintage RV that so then I flew down.
Bottom to people. I mean, honestly, Louise, do you know what I mean? But that's fantastic. And you did it, and you got the bus, and you did 6,000 miles. Yeah. 28 states?
I did 6,000 miles in 28 states. I flew down to Arizona to pick her up with a one-way ticket, drove her back to Portland, then spent the next 6 months kind of getting sponsors for the tour. I wrapped the bus so everyone, the plan was I want to wrap the bus so everyone will see her coming. And then everywhere I go, I'm going to throw events and try and just connect women locally. Everyone's lost. Everyone needs their people. So I'll drive the bus and I'll gather people locally, and then they'll find each other, and then I'll roll on. And that was the plan for that. Was my sole vision for the bus.
Amazing. And it worked.
And it worked. It was absolutely unbelievable. And the events were amazing. And it was a bit like Hike Squad. Sometimes there was, I think in one place there was 4 people, and in another place there was 250 people. Like, I never knew. I mean, when I left, I had maybe 40,000 followers. There may be 50,000 followers by the time I left. I don't know who I thought was coming, because they don't all live in America, the 50,000 followers. I don't know what I thought. I genuinely thought as I left, I'm going to change the world with me in the bus. And I think, I learned very quickly that you can't do that by yourself. B, this liberation works both ways. Magic of the journey was people helping me, like strangers helping me when I broke down. I had followers inviting me into their homes. I went and stayed with strangers everywhere. When she broke down, people would turn up to try and, with food or to help me fix her, but it was the women in need who came knocking on the door. So they would see the bus, they'd see me roll into the RV park, and obviously I'd cause a scene everywhere I go. People are like, what the fuck? And then there wasn't one RV park where I was there for longer than 2 hours before the first woman came knocking at the door going, "Oh, I looked you up. Can I come in for a chat?"
Right.
You know, I could have you here. I could fill 9 podcasts with stories of the women that I met and men on the run from domestic violence, fundamental religion. They'd lost their homes through the health insurance. And I mean, that was then. God knows what's going to happen now with everything that's happening in the States.
Oh, yeah. But no, that was an unexpected consequence of you doing what you do. But I imagine that's because of you and who you are, and because you're in the industry.
That's the power of showing up as you. They would see me, they'd Google my Instagram, and from that, they would feel able to come knocking on the door looking for help.
Yeah.
And my Instagram was just me being me.
Yeah.
And that gave women permission to come and meet me, ask for help, you know, ask for advice.
Were you able to sort of give them, you know, practical help because you were on the move and stuff? Was it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was on my own. It was on my own time. So like a woman who'd been beaten up by her husband was sitting on the doorstep when I got home from a night out in Austin, for example. So she moved into the bus. She stayed with me for a week till we could get her into a shelter.
Amazing.
In Arkansas, I found 3 women dying of cancer, all dying of cancer without health insurance, sitting in their motorhomes, didn't even know each other in the same RV park. So I stayed there and set up a women's group. And they still, to this day, they're all still alive and they're all still supporting each other through that.
I mean, I didn't know any of this. And it's just, well, that just really shows what living with a real purpose is about. And and you find a way. And I was going to ask you a practical thing about your day-to-day. Now, I can tell from the pictures of you then and now, you kept yourself really fit. And you said you managed to sort of get healthy eating habits. And, you know, what was a day like? How did you, because you obviously did keep looking great, and you know, did you have a routine like right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would get up. Although I really find it hard exercising by myself. I'm such a group. I need accountability.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, I think so you've got to understand, when I got on the bus, although my husband and I had been separated for 1.5 years, almost 2 years by the time I got on the bus, the day I left the day I drove away was really felt like the day I left him and my son behind. So I was it was crippling. I was cripplingly sad for a lot of the journey, but I think there was a lot of it I had to just almost park to one side, because then I had the bus to focus on and the tour. And there was like, you know, every day was like, is she even going to start? Am I going to get to where I want to be? Like it was, And I think it was one of the best things ever, because I could have bought an RV that would start every day. And made life easier and cheaper. But instead, I went for a difficult middle-aged bus. I mean, she's literally 40, so it's always making me laugh. She's a cranky old bitch.
Yes.
And my mum had died. My mum had died of Alzheimer's in the middle of this whole me buying the bus. And so I ended up calling her Susie, and I wanted to call her Shirley after Shirley Valentine. Do you remember Shirley Valentine? Ran off with a Greek waiter. He used to talk to the wall because her husband used to ignore her. I wanted to call her Shirley Valentine, but I knew the Americans wouldn't know who that was, and I'd spend the whole time trying to explain Shirley Valentine. And then Mum died, and everyone was like, "You've got to call the bus Susie after Mum." And I was like, "I don't want to call the bus Susie after Mum. It's going to make me sad." And in the end, I did. And it was the most beautiful thing I did, because everyone's like, "What's she called?" And I'm like, "Susie after my mum, because she was a burnt-ass bitch." And, and then when I'm broken down in the Nevada desert, you know, me and Susie had some very long chats and some very stressful times. But I had to surrender to Susie time. She doesn't go over 50 miles an hour. She breaks down. She does what she fucking well wants. There's no planning or predicting what would happen. And I had to sort of surrender control to the experience. And it was one of the best things that I ever did.
Often, I think, for people who are going through big change, is just, as you said, surrender control. Not an easy thing to do, because, you know, when you see your story, you see you and your colourful kind of, you know, you on Instagram and you who you are, it's very easy for people to think, oh, well, it's easy for her. She's kind of...
It's not easy for me at all. It's really hard. And you know, moving home, I think, has probably been the biggest reinvention, moving back to the UK. I don't think it ever felt like a failure, but when we left, like we were going forever. In my eyes, we were going forever. I thought my husband would get, would move with the ad agency, and then he was going to get a job. Nike's based out in Portland. I was like, oh, he'll get a job with Nike. We're going to be here for life. This is it. People in Brighton were like, see you in a couple of years. I'm like, why? I said to my ex-husband, why do they keep saying that? Like, we're not coming back.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't anticipate moving home on my own, having left my son and leaving my husband.
Yeah.
I did not see that in my...
How many years was it? So
10 years we were there. Well, and they're still there. My son's at college in Montana. He's 20, just about to be 22. Yeah. So yeah, moving home has been a huge shock. Like adjusting after 25 years of being with a partner. And I didn't have the joy of divorce because, we weren't in a completely unhappy marriage. We just wanted different things, and I wanted more. And when I set off on that bus, I don't even know what I didn't go, right, I'm going looking for this. I went off to meet women. I just went to try and connect women and build community. And I didn't have a clear plan other than the fact that I knew I did want to move home. I just went out on this adventure to see what happened, really. And, life leads me rather than me taking control. But I think learning to adjusting without a partner has been really, 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 really hard, much, much harder than I thought. Financially, particularly, I'm shit with money, and I've gone from a very, very nice life with a husband who earned a very nice salary to not having that.
Yes, I know that feeling too.
Yes. And I feel so thankful to my mum and dad and to growing up in the sort of Christian, having that foundation in my life of gratitude. And so I was always able to be grateful for what I had, no matter what that is. There wasn't one day in Portland I didn't go, wow, whether it was a leaf or a view or a sunset or I don't know, whatever it may be. And so I make the most of every opportunity that comes my way. I seize that shit. I read a lot of this started. I read Shonda Rhimes wrote a book called My Year of Yes.
Yes.
And it was one of the first books I ever read. The first self-help book I probably ever picked up was this book. And I had a whole year of saying yes to everything. Yeah. And yes just leads to more yes, leads to more yes, to more yes. And it really shifted something in my head. Yeah. And now I think because I've been on such a journey, and I've been in a journey on a journey on a journey, right? Life's a journey. Yeah. And we talk about journey all the time. It is that. And I think if you can see it as that, and I talk about chapters. We have these chapters. I've got a book deal. I still haven't finished writing the proposal properly. Yeah. But I started to think, well, what does the book look like? And I started to think about my book, my life as a book, and my life very distinctly fall into these chapters. There's my slut chapter, there's my PTA chapter, there's my pregnancy and childbirth. There's all these chapters. Yeah. And from the minute I started thinking of my life as a book, it's so helpful to think of it. And I think I always tell my clients, as I do a lot of self-love coaching, and I'm like, if you're stuck, particularly in a shit chapter you think you're never going to get out of, look back at all those other chapters that you've got. You keep writing your pages. You've got to keep turning the pages. Write it and turn the page. And it does feel like you're stuck in this chapter, but you won't be. It will. This too shall pass, right? Yeah. And also those chapters of that book, there is happy chapters, traumatic chapters, absolutely heartbreaking chapters, exciting chapters, chapters that maybe you'd want to rewrite. But when you look at your life as a book and you look back at all those chapters, some of those chapters wouldn't happen. They're all part of this beautiful,
such a lovely analogy. And I think because your story is quite for the extreme in the sense that not everyone's going to go and get a van and go around. But the emotion, the principles, the story behind it, you doing the day-to-day decision-making you made and creating those chapters along the way is something that people can learn from and replicate in their own lives. And for them, it might be, this is the chapter where I lose weight, or the chapter where I do my first 10K.
Yeah, but, well, I've got a blank page. Anything could happen on in this chapter.
Yeah.
But then it's sort of almost. Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Right. It just went back.
I don't know why. I don't know what's happening.
The blank page is good as well. Yeah.
I think it makes you feel excited about the next chapter.
Right.
You know, if you're thinking of it like that, you're like, okay, what could it possibly be?
Yeah.
You know, and I still don't really know. Well, I know. Actually, you know what? That's not true. I do. I've had to adjust to being on my own, which is huge.
Yeah.
I do not know. Sorry.
It's all right.
Somebody keeps trying to call.
So you're adjusting to being on your own. You're back.
Yeah, and I think when I came home, I had a couple of agents fighting over me. There was a bidding war for agents. I got offered a podcast on Global. I got a couple of really big jobs for good money, and I was like, oh, this is going to be brilliant. This is ace. And then I think so exhausted. The grief caught me up of leaving America and leaving Hike Squad and my girls, leaving my husband, leaving my son behind. The grief caught up with me, and I mean, all these people telling me I'm going to do this and I'm going to get this and they're going to do this for me. And I thought people do what they said they were going to do. Turns out they don't. And before you know it, a year's gone by and I've kind of hadn't really I was busy letting everybody else promise me things and then waiting for it to happen. It turns out that they don't do that. So you kind of, oh my God, what is happening? I'm sorry. Someone's very keen to get hold of me.
You need to take it. Or...
No, it's just 3 random people trying to call at once.
Yeah.
And then I've fallen in love again.
Brilliant.
So that's exciting. With my first love, which is kind of wild. So that's interesting because there's a lot of history there.
Well, that's reinvention part 2.
That's reinvention part 2. And then what does this self-love revolution look like? And, how do I monetize that? So, I mean, that's been the tricky part, is trying to monetize what I do and be able to ask for money. I have a terrible relationship with money that I constantly am trying to reinvent.
Yeah, I think that's common for a lot of people, actually, women in particular. I think to value, you might value yourself, but then the money thing is just alien.
The money piece is really, really, really difficult.
You've got such a good platform, and you've got, I've seen you're doing courses in 2026.
Self-love. I am, and very excitingly, I've just, in the spirit of reinvention, I've just been on my first mushroom journey and experience.
Yeah.
I went on a sort of in a very small, beautiful container group of women, very beautiful retreat down in Cornwall. And I went looking for what's, this year's been so amazing. I shipped the bus back with me. I forgot to say that bit. I shipped the bus back to the UK because she was so powerful in the States. I couldn't leave her behind. So for 2 years, she's been in a shed in Somerset with me trying to get her out and get her road legal. The beginning of this year, finally, I got her on the road. And so I've spent the year just driving around. I was invited to do a TED talk about my journey in the bus. So I turned that into a show. So I've been touring the show. And I'm taking my incredible wardrobe with me, just letting women to get dressed up in the clothes. I go to corporates and we do sort of workshops for them about giving less fucks and being more creative.
We're doing absolutely tons.
I do so many things. Yeah. And I'm like, now this year's been amazing, but I still find myself financially challenged. And I'm like, so what's next? So I went off in this mushroom experiment journey and did the medicine to try and figure out, why won't I let people help me? Why can I not charge money for what I do? There's still so many questions I need answering. And during my journey, constantly it was Hike Squad, and the picture of me at the top of the volcano just kept coming to me over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh my God.
I spotted before I spoke to you, because I didn't have as much time to research. I knew you, and I thought, oh God. And the 2 things that came up was you on top of the volcano and Hike Squad. And Hike Squad for me, because I'm a runner and I'm interested in, that type of movement, really sort of rang a bell. So I think that's really interesting, because I think that's something I can help you share, and with other people as well.
Well, so interestingly, when I came back, when I moved back, the first thing I did was buy an 8-seater car so I could take people hiking. And so for the first 2 years, everywhere I went, I just threw a Hike Squad to see if people wanted to do it. But I just couldn't get my head around, how I could make it into some sort of like a financially viable thing. And then after my mushroom journey, I'm like, maybe that's the obvious thing. So I'm just creating it's called a social franchise. It's like a franchise, but for social, what's the word?
Social.
Not so, I keep social justice keeps coming into my, but it's not that.
I know what you mean as well. It's not enterprises. It's something along those lines, though.
You know, and I've been manifesting this for my whole talk, because I talk about Hike Squad in my talk, and then I always say middle-aged brownies. I want think about it like middle-aged brownies.
Yeah.
I want a squad of squads everywhere. I want like Hike Squad leaders that I train that are LuLu Land affiliated.
Yeah.
And everybody is in a hike squad, and then once a year we have a jamboree and mad camp, and everyone can win badges for like hot flushing and wanking. And so I finally decided to do that. So the last month I've been nose down working out what the franchise looks like and how it's going to work. And so in about 2 weeks, I'm going to start reaching out to gauge interest from leaders and start recruiting my first 15 leaders. I'm hoping to launch that next year.
Well, that is amazing. And do you know what? That's the next chapter.
That's my next chapter.
I was going to ask you, do you have the finish of the story? But I'm guessing maybe not.
No. And I don't know. I think we spend our whole lives chasing this thing, right? Is it, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get fit, I'm going to fall in love, I'm going to get more money, I'm going to get bifolding doors. We're always chasing the thing. If you ask people what makes them happy, it's never the fucking bifolding doors. It's a feeling or a smell or a memory or a moment. Yeah. And we waste all of this time chasing one big thing instead of embracing the journey and being on this ride and trying to make the most out of it. And I'm not saying every day is freaking glorious. This last week, I've just been in the absolute doldrums. Yeah. I've spent too long in the loft doing planning, and I need humans. People are like, how do you have all the energy? And I'm like, I need the humans for the energy.
I know exactly what you mean there. I'm exactly the same, and it's ups and downs, isn't it? Yeah. So I think to finish this podcast, I would say, for people, because we've got an audience of people, small at the moment, but it's growing, who are with fitness, well-being, about being outside and about the mind-body connection, not just about doing exercise. So I think I would always encourage people to go hiking, to walk, to get outside. So I'd say to our users to watch what you're doing and to follow and join the brownies.
Yes, join the brownie, join Hike Squad, yes.
So, and then for that, and I will have all your links in the bits below and above wherever we're going to put them. So all your links to, I've seen your YouTube, your TED talk in Portland is brilliant. So I'll share that as well. So
thank
you so much for this and for giving me your time, because I'm inspired and you're doing great stuff. You've come up with so many ways of expressing how a lot of us feel. We're all going through change all the time, that being you and your real self is the main thing that matters, and not worry too much about planning. Just go on the journey.
Just go with it. Don't be afraid. Or if you do feel afraid, I don't do anything. If I'm not afraid, I don't do it. I've learned the magic's in the fear. If it's easy and I'm comfortable, then it's probably not worth doing. The magic is in the fear.
So someone said in the 90s, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's been a brilliant conversation, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on.